During the Halloween season, there is almost nothing that I enjoy more than sitting back and watching the Halloween episodes of my favorite TV shows, that being The Simpsons and South Park. And while The Simpsons may have set the standard by pumping out their yearly Treehouse of Horrors for 34 years straight, arguably giving us more quantity than quality over those years, South Park is no slouch themselves, giving us 8 quality Halloween episodes of their own over the past 26 years. So, with it being October, I thought it would be fun to look back at all 8 of South Park's Halloween episodes to give them some well-deserved love, as well as rank them according to my favorites at the end. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we go down to South Park for some Halloween fun. Alright, kicking it off, we have Season 1's Pink Eye, released on October 29th, 1997. And this episode is very special to me, because this was the first episode of South Park that I ever saw. The little 9-year-old me will never forget watching this episode with my dad as we laughed and ate chili on a cold October day. And what better way to start than by having zombies in the first Halloween episode, as we see Kenny killed in the beginning by a crashed space station, only to return as a zombie after a bottle of Worcestershire sauce mixes with his embalming fluid, thus turning everyone he bites into zombies, which gets mistakenly diagnosed as pink eye. Meanwhile, Stan, Kyle, and Cartman are excited to enter their school costume contest, where the prize is 2 tons of candy. Cartman is absurdly dressed as Hitler, only to be forced to change it to a ghost costume that ends up resembling a Ku Klux Klan outfit. Stan is dressed as Raggedy Andy as part of a couple's costume with his girlfriend Wendy, who changed her mind, and Kyle is wearing a Chewbacca mask, only to find out that everyone in his class has the same mask, including Wendy, who ends up winning the costume contest. As the zombies continue spreading throughout South Park, Chef teams up with the boys to stop the outbreak by killing the original zombie. And while Stan and Cartman are chainsawing down hordes of zombies, Kyle chainsaws Kenny in half.
Oh my god! I killed Kenny! You bastard!
Ending the outbreak and transforming everyone back to normal. Overall, I love this episode. From Zombie Kenny, to Cartman's insane Halloween costumes, to the bloody chainsaw ending. And after 26 years, it holds up just as well today as it did back then, making it a quintessential episode to enjoy for Halloween.
So remember, kids, dressing up like Hitler in school isn't cool.
Next is Season 2's Spooky Fish, which was released on October 28, 1998. And the most notable thing about this episode is the introduction of Spooky Vision, which is hilariously just pictures of Barbra Streisand bordering the screen throughout this episode, which is kind of a mix of several different popular movies, blending elements of Pet Sematary and Poltergeist with just a dash of Body Snatchers, as we get murderous pets, parallel dimension, and evil doppelgangers. Starting off with the boys meeting evil Cartman, who not only is sporting a goatee, but is actually much nicer and kinder than our normal Cartman. Also, Stan's Aunt Flo, and yes, pun intended, brings him a pet goldfish that ends up murdering several people throughout this episode, while Stan's mother covers up the murders by burying the bodies in their backyard. As the boys and the 2 Cartmans search for answers to everything going on, they end up at the Indian Burial Ground pet store. Find out that the owner desecrated the bodies buried underneath, which opened up a portal to an evil parallel universe, releasing the evil pets and goateed Cartman. Eventually, an evil Stan and Kyle emerge from the parallel universe to take back their Cartman and release all the evil pets. In the end, the boys send their evil twins back to the parallel universe, with the intention to also send their Cartman back there as well and keep the nicer evil Cartman, only to be tricked into sending the evil Cartman back by mistake. Spooky Fish is a fun episode, with its best parts being the interactions between the 2 Cartmans and Stan's mother covering up the goldfish murders. If I had any gripes with this episode, it would be the lack of overall Halloween aesthetic compared to the other episodes. But there is still a lot of fun to be had with this episode, and it's always worth a watch during the spooky season.
You tricked us, Cartman! That's right, I did! You guys are hella stupid, you guys are hella lame, you guys are hella dumb, hella. Damn it!
Next is Season 3's Korn's Groovy Pirate Ghost Mystery, released on October 27th, 1999, which sadly would be the last Halloween episode for the next 7 years, ending their 3-year streak. In this episode, is easily one of my favorites. A South Park Scooby-Doo parody, featuring the actual rock band Korn and voiced by all its members, is such a great idea and executed to perfection. In this episode, South Park is throwing a Halloween haunt festival down at the docks that will be featuring the rock band Korn, which draws the ire of Priest Maxi as he objects to both the holiday and the band, claiming them both to be unholy and cursed. And on the way to South Park, Korn gets run off the road by some pirate ghosts.
Pirate ghost!
Meanwhile, the boys want to get back at the 5th graders for scaring them, so they decide to dig up Kyle's dead grandmother and use her body to scare them. But when they hide the body down at the docks, a stray dog finds it and eats it, only to regurgitate it at the end of this episode. The next day, the pirate ghosts attack the people at City Hall, to which Priest Maxi claims that the band Korn was to blame, which prompts the town to boycott Korn. Back at the docks, the boys realize that the body is missing, and Korn decides to help the boys find it, which is the best part of this episode, as from this point on, it goes full-on Scooby-Doo, complete with all the gags and antics that you would expect, including the reveal that Priest Maxi was the one behind the pirate ghosts. This episode is just packed with so many goodies, from the Scooby-Doo tone, to Cartman and his Antonio Banderas blow-up love doll, to Kenny's awesome Ed 209 costume, and just the fact that the actual band Korn was in on the joke. This episode is so much fun and always a great rewatch any time of year.
Then you'll help us?
Sure, we'll help you. If there's one thing we like more than playing music, it's solving a groovy mystery.
All right.
Next we have Season 10's Hell on Earth 2006. And anytime you combine Satan, Biggie Smalls, and a Three Stooges parody with Bundy, Dahmer, and Gacy, you're in for a killer time. In this episode, Satan wants to throw a huge Halloween party in the vein of MTV's My Super Sweet 16, featuring a Ferrari cake at the end of the night. Back in South Park, the boys are trying to summon Biggie Smalls by repeating his name 3 times into a mirror, but they all end up being too afraid to do it. Until later that night, after brushing his teeth, Butters summons Biggie Smalls, who shows up pissed off that he will now miss Satan's party, so now it's up to Butters to get him there. Meanwhile, Satan enlists Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy to pick up his Ferrari cake, which perfectly turns into a Three Stooges parody, but up in the violence and the gore. And, much like the Stooges, everything goes horribly wrong, as not only does the Ferrari cake get destroyed, they end up killing each other in some violent Stooges ways. At the party, Satan becomes furious and throws a tantrum, much like the spoiled kids on My Super Sweet 16, when he finds out that his Ferrari cake was replaced with an Acura cake. When the people see his reaction, they start to leave his party. Seeing the errors of his way, Satan decides it's better to have fun and let everybody into his party. Overall, this is an entertaining episode with some great jokes. But without a doubt, my favorite parts are every scene with the 3 murderers. That alone keeps me coming back to this episode.
You know, the whole crocodile hunter thing, it's just a little soon, you know? I mean, he just died a few weeks ago, and it's just not super cool. You gotta leave.
But it's me, Satan. Steve Irwin. I am the crocodile hunter.
Oh, but then, dude, no costume. Sorry, you gotta go.
Wait, I thought we were friends!
Next we have Season 16's A Nightmare on FaceTime, which was released on October 24th, 2012. And while the title might suggest that this is a Nightmare on Elm Street parody, it's actually a parody of The Shining, which was a bold choice considering how iconic The Simpsons' take on The Shining was.
You've got the shinin'.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
But South Park came to play and delivered an iconic episode of their own
Simpsons did it! Simpsons did it! Ah!
by taking The Shining and elevating it by setting it in a Blockbuster video, which was genius. In this episode, Randy buys a Blockbuster video believing that it will make him rich. But his family is skeptical of this purchase due to the rise of streaming services, which is proven right when after several days, no one rents a movie. As the Blockbuster remains empty, Randy starts talking to ghosts in the video store aisles, while his family believes he is slowly going crazy. Eventually, one of the ghosts convinced Randy that Stan and his wife are to blame for the store's failure, driving him more mad. Meanwhile, Stan and his friends are dressed up as the Avengers for Halloween, but since Stan is stuck at Blockbuster, he uses his iPad to FaceTime with his friend so he can be with the group virtually.
Trick or treat! Trick or treat!
Oh, wow! Look, honey, it's Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Bruce Valanche.
And while the boys are out trick-or-treating, they notice a convenience store being robbed and decide to help since they are dressed as the Avengers. When they see that the clerk has been murdered, the boys flee the scene, but accidentally leave a flyer behind for the Monster Mash party that they are going to. At the police station, the police devise a plan to capture the Red Box killers by having one of their officers go undercover to the Monster Mash party and use Stan's iPad as the head of the costume so he can identify the killers.
Wow, Gangnam Style. I wish I'd have thought of that.
Back at Blockbuster, Randy has gone completely insane and he is now looking for Stan. It ends up taking control of Stan's iPad, sending the disguised officer on a rampage through town, until he is gunned down by the police.
We got this son of a bitch.
Wait, wasn't that Peterson in there?
Shh.
The next morning, Randy is discovered half frozen, just like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, ending with Stan streaming a movie from his iPad and putting it into Randy's frozen hand. For me, this episode is an absolute masterpiece, as it pays homage to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, mirroring some of the best scenes, while giving us top-tier South Park humor, making this a must-watch every Halloween.
Oh, you'll see. I'm sorry, Stan, but in about 30 minutes, this place is going to be swamped with people trying to rent DVDs.
Renting DVDs is more ancient than Madonna's boobs!
Ew! That's enough, Stanley. Ew, gross.
Next, we have Season 21's Sons of Witches, released on October 23rd, 2017. This episode, I would argue, is the most Halloween-themed of all these episodes, as nothing screams Halloween more than a bad witch. In this episode, Randy and his friends are meeting up dressed as witches as they enjoy the first day of their annual Halloween party known as Witch Week.
Sup, Steven? Chip?
Just ready to party farty, witches.
Well, I got the Jack.
And I got the crack.
Oh yeah, Jack and Crack Witch Week, let's do this!
This time their friend, Chip Duncan, brings an actual spell book to the party, and when he reads from it, he transforms into a real witch, who then flies off on a broomstick to cause chaos and capture all the children of South Park. Meanwhile, Cartman is angry at his girlfriend Heidi, who caused him to miss going to the pumpkin patch, so he decides he needs to get rid of her. And he does so by convincing her to go with him to a costume party dressed as Hansel and Gretel. But Cartman abandons her in the forest and lets the Bad Witch capture her. And as the town continues to go after all witches, Randy is upset since the Bad Witch ruined his Witch Week party, and expresses that Chip is the only Bad Witch, and that it should not be held against him and his friends. With the running joke being that they don't actually say the words witch hunt.
There's one awful witch who wants to kill everybody, so now they're coming after all of us. This is like a witch thingy.
It's like a witch pursuit thingy.
A witch,
It's a witch chase and shoot 'em up.
yeah, that's what it is.
Fearing that trick-or-treating will be canceled this year because of the Bad Witch, the boys contact President Garrison, who used to be a member of the Witch Week group. And when he arrives in South Park, he uses his presidential power to launch a satellite laser, vaporizing the Bad Witch, thereby releasing all the captured children. Overall, I thoroughly enjoy this episode, as every time I watch it, I get the Halloween feel, which is why this has become a staple of mine every Halloween season.
Everybody follow me. I've got tons of Jack, tons of Crack, and a jet.
The second to last Halloween episode is Season 22's The Scoots, which was released on October 31st, 2018. And as the title of this episode implies, this is a loose parody of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, only instead of birds, South Park is overrun with e-scooters, which Mr. Mackey is the first person to recognize this as a problem since he keeps seeing the e-scooters everywhere he goes. The boys find out about the e-scooters and figure out that they can use them to accelerate their trick-or-treating this year, which will gain them the most candy ever. Unfortunately for poor Kenny, though, you need a cell phone to use these e-scooters, which he does not have. Therefore, Stan, Kyle, and Cartman do not let him go trick-or-treating with them since he would slow them down.
Shouldn't have been poor Kenny.
Kenny then tries to find another group to go trick-or-treating with, only to find out that all the kids in town have the same idea to use the e-scooters on Halloween. Later that night, Mr. Mackey tries to get rid of all the e-scooters by collecting them and dumping them off of a mountain, only to wake up the next morning and find out that there are even more e-scooters than before. When Halloween arrives, all chaos erupts as every kid, except for Kenny, grab an e-scooter and start their trick-or-treating. As the mayhem takes place, Mr. Mackey and Kenny team up to stop the e-scooters, as together they figure out that bringing down the cell phone tower will stop all the scooters. Overall, this is a great Halloween episode with great Halloween aesthetic. I also enjoyed the fun combination of Mr. Mackey and Kenny teaming up in the end. This is a quality episode that I always look forward to watching this time of year.
You could have used your cars, but you just had to scoot, and now Tricks or Treats is here.
And the final Halloween episode, at least as of 2023, is Season 23's Integrity Farms Halloween Special, which I think is the weirdest of all these episodes, and that's saying a lot, as this episode starts off with Randy excited to promote his Halloween special marijuana, while also dealing with his daughter Shelly and her marijuana problem.
Shelly, we need to talk about your marijuana problem. You know, what's your problem with it?
I hate marijuana.
Yes, we all know, but why?
It stinks, and it makes everyone in this town dumber than they already are.
Shelly, the truth is some of the most important people in the world smoke weed. Did you know that Snoop Dogg smokes weed?
Shelly even tries to ruin Randy's special marijuana by dousing it with some chemicals that she brewed, only instead of destroying the marijuana, the plant grows exponentially, making the strain more powerful than ever. As later that night, during Randy and Towley's Halloween party, they begin to hallucinate after smoking the tainted marijuana, and they start to see everyone at the party transform into plant-like zombies. And when they run away, they see zombie cows, and even a zombie Winnie the Pooh, which was a nice callback to the previous episode Banned in China, where Randy kills Winnie the Pooh as a favor for the Chinese government. In the end, Shelly has to brew another concoction to douse Randy with in order to knock him out. Now, there's also an entire bizarre subplot in this episode involving Butters and a mummy that he awakens at a museum, where the mummy puts a love kiss on Butters, but when the mummy gets upset with Butters, it keeps showing up and randomly destroying everything, to which poor Butters always ends up taking the blame, till the very end when Butters finally apologizes to the mummy and then the mummy just leaves. Overall, this episode does have some great moments in it, but admittedly, of all the Halloween episodes, this is one I probably go back to the least. But that doesn't make it a bad episode. In fact, I believe all the episodes here are worth a watch.
Did everyone enjoy the Halloween special?
No, Randy. Only you did.
Oh, well, that was pretty much my target audience anyway.
Now, if I were to rank these episodes according to my personal favorites, I would rank them as follows, with A Nightmare on FaceTime being my clear-cut number 1, and Integrity Farms Halloween Special at the bottom. Those two episodes will pretty much always be locked in those spots. But any of these other episodes could easily slide up or down a spot or two on my list depending on my mood that day. Well, there you have it. That is my official review and rankings of the South Park Halloween episodes. I hope you enjoyed this review and discussion, and if so, please feel free to like and subscribe. And look forward to more content coming soon. Thanks for watching, and happy Halloween!